I haven't been around for a couple of weeks. Sorry I haven't done any new videos. I've not been very well. I've had a touch of the flu and I ended up for a short while in hospital. Not quite as bad as Horror Hospital as it seems, although it's quite nice of them to use a picture of my ex-missus on the artwork, which is quite nice. So this video is one that I've got quite a bit of advice for you, especially if you're new to Pattaya and to Thailand, but I'm not going to be sprinting around everywhere and going to different places. In fact, I think I'm just going to have a little seat by the beach, and I'm going to tell you 5 pieces of advice that I wish my guardian angel had given me before my first trip to Thailand. If you're coming for the first time, stick around because there's lots of stuff to get through. Let's get a nice cozy little chair on the beach. So the first time I came here was in 1996, and there wasn't that much information about Thailand or Pattaya. In fact, I got a book out of the library. I might have got 2 books out of the library, and there was maybe a couple of pages each on Pattaya, and it was the usual stuff you got then. Don't disrespect the royal family, don't disrespect Buddha images. These are good points even today, 27, 28 years later. But there wasn't the YouTube channels, the Facebook groups, and so it was clearly something that you had to learn as you went on. And I think one of the very first things that I realised, and I'm going to use this point number 1, and that is Buddhism in general. Now, there are different types of Buddhism, and I have to say, over the years, I've just got the feeling that generally, and I'm making a general point here, so if there are any Thais watching, please don't jump on me, but I just think they don't take Buddhism that seriously, and if you do make a mistake, don't worry, you won't be seen in a negative way. And one of the things I did to illustrate this point, on the very first trip I came on, I remember we ended up in Bangkok, and we was on a river cruise going around the Chao Phraya River, having a look at some of the sites. And I remember reading in one of these books that I read on the airport, on the plane, that you had to Y like a Buddhist image. Every time you saw a Buddhist image, you had to Y. That was the worst advice I ever got, because I spent the whole of that day just going past spirit houses, pictures of the Lord Buddha, and just Ying them all the time. And I think the woman I was with thought I was a bit nuts if she hadn't already sort of worked that one out beforehand. And I think the first point I want to make is you should be very respectful of Buddhism here. I think over 90% Buddhism in this country, but don't go too crazy on it and don't get paranoid about it. You don't need to Y every Buddhist image that you see. You need to be very respectful of it. If somebody gives you a Buddhist image, treat it with great respect and authority. If you've got a top pocket, always put it there because it's close to your heart. They say don't put a picture of a Buddha in your trouser pockets, as it's considered to be around a dirty part of the body. But if you can't help it, never mind. And the other thing in this kind of subject area is Ying. Now, if you don't know, if you've never been to Thailand before, the traditional Thai greeting is the Y, which is hands together, fingers pointed, hands together, and they're kind of brought in a kind of a prayer sort of gesture. I'm actually holding a microphone, so it's not easy to do this, but they come together a little bit like that, and all the Thais are going to be looking at this going, he's doing it wrong. If you really want to be really respectful when you greet somebody, bow the head a little bit like that. In fact, my 2 kids now, they're always bowing their heads down when they meet anybody. But you don't actually need to Y anybody, really. it's not the given thing. I think that when they meet a Western person, especially a Western person that hasn't been here for a long time, maybe on their first trip, they expect to shake hands. That's kind of cute for them to shake hands. Yes, if you are in a bit of bother, you get into trouble with the police or a government official or something, then whying somebody in uniform like that is a very, very good thing. But you know, if you're whying girls in bars, for example, that's a huge no-no. Don't worry about it. Just greet them, or just whatever. Just relax about it. Another massive no-no, and something that I did on my first trip, I think, was whying children. You just don't do it. Just don't do it. I mean, that's the only time I'm ever going to say any advice. Just don't why children, and keep a why if you want to monks, elderly people, and people that are clearly in control, that are in a uniform, and you will do well. But other than that, don't worry too much. So the whole Buddhism thing, yes, be respectful, but don't worry too much if you get things wrong, and don't go round whying everyone. Oh, I'm quite enjoying presenting this on the beach. I should do this more often. Number 2, and if I could make a big sort of title for this one, it would be don't be paranoid. There is so much information now. Having said that, I got a book out of the library about Thailand when I came. Now there are YouTube channels, Facebook groups, the lot, everything. There's information overload, and it seems that everybody here in Pattaya wants to be a YouTuber. Heaven knows why, right? So you've got information bombarded at you all the time for a first timer. And I'll say this: if, for example, a YouTuber wants to get some clicks on his YouTube channel, he would not put out a video that says, I went to Thailand and had a lovely time, and I sat on the beach and had a nice soft drink and met some very nice people, and nothing exciting happened, and I just relaxed and had the best holiday ever. That wouldn't get any views. But if you put out a video that says, I was scammed in a go-go bar, I got ripped off on Beach Road, negativity sells, and so you do tend to get an exponentially large amount of information here about scams, about people ripping you off, about negativity. And I can assure you that there's no need to become paranoid about that, because it's just not going to happen. If you are sensible and you keep your wits about you, then literally just take every day as it comes. And not every Thai person is trying to rip you off. Not every girl just wants to take all your money off you. There are really, really nice people out here, and just come with an open mind. I'm reminded of a story on one of, I don't think it was my first visit, or it was one of my first visits. The girl I was with had a friend, and we went to her house, and she gave me this lovely present, which was, it might have been a horse, it might have been a cow, I don't know, but it was some kind of animal that were being constructed, and she had made herself out of old cigarette packets. And they got, I mean, she must have had a terrible habit, because she'd made this animal, and she kind of lattice worked cut these cigarette packets into a kind of a lattice work, and she'd made this three-dimensional animal, and she gave it to me and says, there you go, Kunfil, there you go, there's a present for you to take home to England. And immediately, because I was a bit green, I didn't really know anything, my initial thought was, this is full of drugs. And I'm going to get into customs either at Birmingham Airport or at Don Muang, as it was in those days, in Bangkok. And I was going to get locked away for 30 years or 40 years. And so I immediately felt very negative towards this present that I'd received. This woman had probably spent weeks making this present for me, and I can't remember if I took it home. I might have took it home, or I might have just dumped it at the airport, because I was absolutely paranoid. Not everybody is negative. Open your mind, be positive to everybody, and obviously keep your wits about you. Scams do happen, but not on the scale that you would think if you're just looking at all the YouTube channels and all the Facebook groups and the negative things that happen to people sometimes here in the land of smiles. Number 3, I would headline this one, don't try and impress. There are massive cultural differences between the West and Southeast Asia, and that goes with many things, including everything from shopping to appearances to education, everything. And I think if I can watch some guys observe, I'm not judging you all the time, guys, don't worry, but if there's one thing I do see is that newbies tend to try to over impress people that they meet over here. And I'm not talking about Westerners like me, but let's just say girls in bars, for example. And you will see them, sometimes you can smell a guy who's trying to over impress, because he will plaster himself in expensive aftershave and perfume. And I think I've been here 78 years now. I don't think I've ever heard a girl say, oh, that guy's French perfume smells nice. They tend to say that they don't like Western smells, and they would prefer if you had a local eau de cologne or whatever that's produced here in Thailand. They're probably used to smelling that on members of the opposite gender, and so they would naturally assume that to be very positive. And in fact, don't worry too much about bringing your Lynx body spray and all that sort of stuff. Just buy a bottle of the local stuff, and I think the girls will probably be more impressed about that. They're not that impressed if you take them to a really high-so Western restaurant, places, and I've done a video on this before, places down on Cozy Beach, for example, Chocolate Factory, Three Mermaids, those sort of places. Sure, a girl will love to get the attention, and she might take a couple of her friends. Don't worry too much about that. That's just a normal Thai thing. And they will take countless Instagram pictures of them at this restaurant and look at the food. This is expensive, but they won't necessarily enjoy the food. In fact, I can almost guarantee that on the way home from having fed them 2,000-3,000 baht meal in the Chocolate Factory or other restaurants, that they will stop off the local somtams seller. The local guy is going to make papaya salad for them, and they're going to go, oh, heel cow, they're hungry. So you might think, well, what was all that about? You know, why are they having extra food? It's just that everything will impress them apart from the food, really. And there are some girls, and you can actually quite tell if a girl is a good un or not, if they will say, oh, you know, there's no need to take me here. I'd much rather go to somewhere cheaper. And, you know, give somebody that you've just met the opportunity for her to choose where to go, because she will probably be a lot happier. Same as, you know, maybe buying her expensive presents. Don't make the big mistake of buying a lady in Southeast Asia gold or jewellery from the West, because it is probably made with inferior gold. Most of the gold here in Thailand is 23 carat. It's very pliable. It's got a lot of heavy gold content in there, and if you give her some 9 carat ring or something, she's not going to think a lot of you. So don't bother with that. Stop trying to impress her with the things that a Western woman would be impressed with. For example, I'm not even sure if this impresses Western women anymore, but a bunch of flowers. Really, I know loads of girls that have received floral presents and they've just not been impressed at all. They'd much rather you just take her and a mate down the somtam or have a nice gui tiao noodle soup or something like that. So things that impress Western women won't necessarily impress a friend that you meet over here in Thailand. Number 4, I would say conversation. You might meet a girl in the West again and think that you've got to impress her with your knowledge of certain subjects. Please, here in Thailand, even though a girl might be responding to your little jokes and nuances with laughter, I can almost guarantee that she probably doesn't understand what you're talking about, but she kind of picks up a pace of a conversation and she'll smile and she'll laugh along with you. I've seen this many times. Try and keep the conversation level kind of down low, and that doesn't mean that the girls are stupid, they're not, but it's just that there is a bit of a language barrier. If you do try and speak if you do speak English or you try to speak Thai, keep it slow, speak slowly, and there's no need to go into big deep conversations about whatever is important to you at the start of a relationship. I can assure you that the girls won't really be into that, and they will find that a little bit boring. So have a little bit of consideration when you're talking to the girls. Keep it fun. I always say, imagine that you're in a group of 7 and 8 year old kids, and please don't think that I'm saying that the girls here, they're like 5 and 6 year olds. They're not. But look at Thai television, for example. Look at the dramas, the soap operas. There isn't a great amount of conversation that's going on, and for a Thai person to laugh, they very much appreciate visual comedy rather than spoken, telling a joke. I've actually caught a bloke once in my bar telling an English, Irish, Scotsman joke to a Thai girl. She literally had no idea what the guy was on about, but I thought it was quite hilarious at the time. So just keep it nice and simple. Don't tell jokes. If you want to be funny, be visual. They will get that, and just keep it nice, and a nice easy pace and a nice easy level of conversation, and you should have a really good time. And finally, number five I would say is don't tell. And this applies to when you go back to the UK or wherever you're coming from, America, Australia, Europe. I haven't lived in the UK for 15 years, but I've got an idea of what's going on there. Snippets from the news, talking to people in the bar, and it's not positive. There's a lot of narrow-mindedness that goes on back home. And I do remember coming back off my first trip. I'd had such a good time here in Thailand back in the 90s, but I told a few of the wrong people, shall we say, where I worked, and it was pretty soon around everywhere that I was some kind of undesirable person that had completely rejected all females in the whole of the West. In fact, that wasn't true for much longer. I did have some very nice relationships in the UK, but at the time it was a bad thing. And another thing was, back in the day, we didn't have digital photography as we have now. We had film. You had to go and have a film developed at Boots the Chemist or wherever, and picking those up, sometimes picking up your holiday snaps could be a bit of a nightmare. So have a think about this. I don't know your particular situation, and it pains me to say that there are some very narrow-minded people out there. So be careful when you discuss it with your family. Be careful if you discuss it with work colleagues. You've got nothing to be ashamed of. You've had a great time here in Pattaya. You're having fun. You're enjoying life. And it might be that there's some people that are just a little bit jealous that you're having a good time and they're not. So bear that in mind. And sometimes in life it's best to just stay quiet about things rather than broadcast it to the whole nation. Of course, we always want more people to come, so you can tell your mates who are going to enjoy that sort of thing, and you can bring them the next time. And I hope you do bring them to my two bars, Le Pub and Milk. I'm on Soy Diamond, which is just off Walking Street, Pattaya. There aren't any signs there at the moment, but if you just get to the 808 and Candy Shop nightclubs, the Soy opposite there, it's got Diamond Arcade over it. Just keep on walking down there and you'll come to my bars eventually. Thank you very much for watching. Can I just say thanks to all the lovely get well soon messages that I've received from people. I'm sorry I haven't done any content for a while, but as you can see, I'm not really mobile. I've really been hit for 6 by the flu, but I'm okay and I'm on the mend, and we'll have some more live streams and some more top-notch quality insight into life here in Thailand coming up over the next few weeks. But for me, Mr. Egg, on a bit of an overcast and gloomy Pattaya beach. See you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.